1,600 miles in 5 days heading up the East Coast. One thing we found was different types of weather, so a good thing we had this vehicle right here. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now for this voyage for the annual Christmas trip, basically what we requested was something with four-wheel drives and heck, enough to carry a four-legged friend. This is exactly what we have. The 2017 Jeep Cherokee, specifically the Trailhawk edition. And what it truly had was that off-road prowess and the reassurance that we had grips at the corner. The ultimate destination was Buffalo, New York, right there on the lake, getting that lake effect snow. Now, thankfully, that weather had come and gone, pretty much leaving the remnants, but having this off-road prowess was a nice backup safety feature. Now, what I like with the Trailhawk edition is truly on the outside, looking four-wheel drive, nice beefy tires, nice rubber cladding along the lower third. In this case, really allowing that grime, salt, all to wash away with ease. Now, what you're gonna notice, that black accents truly wrap around the rest of the vehicle, right here on the mirrors, around the windows, even up here on the roof rack. Now, if you look in the middle of the hood, you'll even see a matte finish, giving you kind of a pinstripe. Now, I'm quite fond of bigger SUVs. Heck, my 6-foot+ frame really demands it. But one thing I've come to love with this vehicle after numerous test drives is it truly delivers what I'm looking for. After all, the interior is really ergonomic and comfortable, and well, the size is just right. Now, by the numbers, what you're gonna see is wheelbase around about 107 inches, just slightly longer than the 4x2 version. Now, as for the overall length, around about 182 inches. Now, one important number I kind of mentioned earlier is ground clearance. This vehicle with the 17-inch tires, the four-wheel drive, is going to be just under 9 inches, and that's pretty hefty on, well, somewhat of a compact offering. One thing you'll definitely want to do, even with the Trailhawk, is get a look at it from every angle. One thing you'll notice is this is not a plain Jane. Don't confuse this with the average crossover, because it just doesn't fit in. Now, looking at some other numbers, what you're going to find, this vehicle is about 5.5 feet tall and just over 6 feet wide. Weight distributions about a 57 to 43% respectively. Now, again, what I like on this model, again, all the black accents, even right down to the rims. One thing that would really make this vehicle feel awkward is if you blinged it out. They've even taken it right down to the rims with that black accent and modest brush looking chrome. Now, when you sweep around, one thing you'll notice, I'll show you the front in a second, is really the chiseling. Now, one thing that comes into play with that, when this is all nice and salty and dirty from the grime on the road, these nooks and crannies will demand a little bit more attention when it comes to cleanliness, but that's well worth it, especially when you look at the profile. Not to rush through the overall design, let's look at the back end just a hair closer. Now, what you're going to notice is the S-like sweep here at the back end. Now, this isn't nothing new on any SUV, but what we don't want is a plain Jane straight back end. This truly will make you blush with the amount of curves. Now, what I see here is a nice combination of the rear spoiler really sweeping out and the rear protruding taillights. That truly sets it off from the competition, and all this pizzazz really combines quite nicely with that front end. Now, compared to the back end, this is really where all the grille warfare is, hence the 7 typical slat grille on any Jeep. And again, that aforementioned black matte accent, giving it really a set-off position. Now, this vehicle may have a bucktooth-like appearance or nosing its way into traffic, because truly this front end really comes together and, well, sticks out just a hair. But what I found on this particular model versus some other I test drive is they really subdued the overall look. Again, with the whole monochromatic color scheme, black on black on black. Now, what I also like with that off-road prowess is all the rubber cladding you're going to see from about midway down. Now, what you also notice is these nice huge hook bars here. Now, there's 2 up front, really strapping you in really good if you need to get pulled out. There's 1 at the back end. Even better, that nice Trailhawk kit that has all the ropes and gloves to help you when you're off-road. Now, what I call this right here is the triple threat, really the triple light assembly that really lets this vehicle be known, especially from anyone in front of you. Now, what this did do is, well, give us a couple of the bright light flashing as people came by, because heck, they thought I ran the brights all the time. Instead, it's just really a bright assembly, and that's helpful for at least the driver, not necessarily oncoming traffic. Now, what you'll find is the daytime running lights up top, really accentuating in this really menacing look, the headlight down below, and of course, that added fog light below that. Really the triple threat, illuminating all the road at any setting. When it comes to smart key systems, the Trailhawk is definitely going to deliver that, meaning pretty much you keep it in your pocket and forget about it. Now, what I like about that truly is just the ease of ingress. As you head up north, it gets a little bit colder, so you don't want to really fiddle too much right here. You just want to climb inside. And what I liked is when you get to that driver's door, pull on the handle, it's going to unlock for everyone. Of course, when you walk away, press the button. Now, security, I've always talked about it, has to deliver right here at the fill-up area. And one thing you'll notice, it is on the passenger side, a little bit cumbersome, but that's just the design and where it ends up. Now, one thing you'll notice is that this cap always stays locked, regardless if the vehicle's unlocked or not. What you have to do is press that little button on the door, it'll pop open, and what you'll find underneath there is the good old cap system. One thing about our long trek is we had to deliver, well, just a couple of us and our four-legged friend, but we also had to take all the gifts and presents that go with this type of season, and that's where this vehicle delivered as well, really here at the business end. Now, what you're going to find back here to start is safety. Now, we have the backup camera couples quite nicely with that oversized screen I'll show you in a minute there on the dash. It also has backup sensors. Now again, we had all that rubber cladding in the front. It sweeps down the side, and one natural area is here at the back end. And you'll notice pretty much again about midway all the way down here, really wrapping around. Now what you also find is that hook I mentioned earlier, so you could tow this vehicle out in the sticky situations. Now this vehicle delivers a little bit of extra function, referring to the good old hatch. Now you can do the old manual way. Doesn't work very well on this one, since it's powered. Now, what does that mean? You can use the button here, open it right up, use the key fob. Now, I prefer just to go up here when you can, pop it right up. Now, what I like is the operation. Very quick, very smooth, and gets out of the way. What you'll also notice is it truly articulates, even for my 6-foot+ frame. The arching really giving you enough height. Now, once this is open, what you're gonna find is decent room, around about 24 cubic feet behind the second row. Now, as you fold that second row down, it's going to more than double. Now, diving into the cargo area just a little bit more, first thing you'll notice is the nice cargo net. Now, it hangs there when you need it and can pretty much hold items that maybe are going to be loose, grocery store, bigger, whatever. Now, what you'll see over here is a nice little niche to hold items. Now, this is removable. It doesn't really swing out. You have to actually take it out, put it back in. Now, this is the Trailhawk pack off-roading that we mentioned earlier. I'll show you the kind of goodies in there in just a second. Now, one thing I like is the carpet. Now, fairly easy to keep clean. We didn't really have a big problem with that. Vacuumed real easily. The other nice feature is this tonneau cover. Now, this is truly helpful if you're going to stay at a hotel overnight. It will allow you to pretty much extend it out, easily lock it into place, and pretty much going to hide all the valuables down below. With the second row in place, it's going to be hard to see what lies beneath. With that area I mentioned earlier, you have this nice steel reinforced bar here, and it can hold things in place. A little handle is going to release it. Now, unlike kind of a gate, what it does is actually loosen up, becomes loose, and then you'll put it back into place. Didn't really find a need for it other than to store the off-road bag. Now, what I like with the off-road bag is what comes in it. Now, this is for the Trailhawk, and what you'll see is this nice huge tow strap. Now, it's going to be really helpful, of course, to pull you out, hook your vehicle up, or even hook another vehicle up and help them out. Even better, to help keep your hands clean, nice leather gloves. No one aims to get a flat tire, but the aim is for prevention, and what you have underneath is a full-size spare. Everything right there when you need it under the cargo floor. For the rear hatch, you can manually close it if you'd like, but that does make it somewhat difficult, especially with the power mechanism. Now, you won't find the power button up here, but instead for the vertically challenged, it'll actually be here on the back pillar. Now, it does take a little hunting for anyone that's not used to this placement, but it does make it helpful to simply press it and walk away. The interior volume you'll see in a minute really comes as a shock, but the first one was right here in the hood. Now, people kept asking, what is the power plant? I assumed what had to be that Tiger Shark that I've test drove before, the 2.4 liter inline 4-cylinder. But truly, that wasn't the case. Instead, it came with the 3.2 liter V6 engine. Now, I explained a lot of that extra boot, scoot, and boogie, so it wouldn't have hurt, well, to stop and look under the hood. Now, what I found was the decent horsepower, around about 271 horses and 239 foot-pounds of torque. The reason why it became such a shock, well, was the fuel economy. I expected, well, a lot more stops at the pump, but instead, I got a lot more bang down the road. After you're done staring at the outside, one place you definitely want to admire is right here behind the wheel, because this is truly where it's at. Now, the one thing I found on all the different models I've tested over this vehicle is comfort is truly on all the vehicles. Now, what I like on this particular model is the sport style seating, the very comfortable leather, and all the various accessories like heated and cooled seats. Now, what I also like is the abundant amount of legroom. Now, this vehicle isn't that big by numbers, but the inside truly is. Now, what we found is around about 41 inches of legroom up front and a mere inch drop in the second row, pretty much delivering comfort for any person anywhere. Now, what I also like is the smart key system, pretty much meaning you leave it in your pocket and forget about it, because all you got to do is press the button. Now, one thing you'll notice with the key fob is if you happen to get out and maybe leave your passengers inside to fend for themselves, then well, take the key with you. The only thing it's going to remind you, well, you took the key, is pretty much this annoying noise and that indicator right there. So if you plan to leave your passengers while you do something else, well, leave the key with them to prevent this kind of noise. With the key returned to the vehicle, the beeping will stop, and well, the people can function on the entertainment, which is right here front center. Nice oversized screen housing the Uconnect system. Now, if you used this before, you'll understand it's fairly easy to use. First, starting with an oversized screen specifically on what function you're using. Now, the shortcuts are down here below, real easy. There's not a true home screen button, but you don't need that with all the shortcuts here. Now, I did find that you can connect the media real easily, but one thing to note, if you haven't downloaded the music to the phone, but instead have it in the iCloud, that will all be dependent on your service. Pretty much what I found was the iCloud had bad service, pretty much made this Bluetooth system work kind of slow. Now, going over to the other controls, this is one area I truly like. With the cold temperatures like it was, when I remote started this vehicle, the heated seats and the heated steering would automatically function, pretty much meaning when I got in this vehicle, the creature comforts were above par. Now, looking at some other functions, you will find Wi-Fi system in this vehicle and a whole bunch of various other systems. Now, these are some shortcuts that you can drag down to the lower bar if you want. You can click on this one here, drag it down, it will get onto that screen. Now, this is really great because this is kind of your home screen, allows you to set all this down here. Now, you can pretty much navigate everything else, the navigation's down here, but everything's there. This system, truly one of the best. The climate control is housed here on the touchscreen system, real easy to use, but again, that is an arm stretch away. Instead, you may want to use the buttons down below because the likelihood of you putting your hand here is probably the standard operating procedure. That means you can simply reach up, use the dual climates here to set your temperature. Nice oversized fan speed knob here in the middle. Now, the mode selects are easier to use on the screen, so basically you want to find those there. One thing that's great about this vehicle is it does have stop-start technology. That pretty much means that when you get to a stop sign, it will automatically turn off the engine. What you're going to want to know is how to turn that off, and that is right here. What does that pretty much mean? Well, you get to a stop sign, it's going to shut down the vehicle. Now, it's going to startle pretty much everyone in the vehicle as well, thinking the vehicle has pretty much broke down. Now, I'm not a big fan of this system because I just don't think you save that much when it comes to fuel economy. So what I pretty much do every time I get in the vehicle, well, is press this button so it turns it off. The touchscreen system can only do so much, so that's why I like symmetry when it comes to the volume knob and the tune select. There is no volume controls on the touchscreen, so you're going to need to reach down here, but I like the fact that it's nice and symmetric, well, and right there where you need it. On the steering wheel, there's going to be minimal controls and keeping everything nice and simple. Now, this is going to relate to the LCD screen there in the middle between the tach and speedometer. That's a nice LCD readout. Now, what I like is that digital speed you see there. That allows you to get that really precise reading versus the old analog system. Now, you can scroll through and get other up-to-date information, but pretty much where I keep it is right there on the speed. Now, another thing you'll notice here on the steering wheel is the cruise control. Now, this is pretty much the standard cruise control, and what you'll notice is these buttons down here. That's for the adaptive cruise control, which is not on this particular model, and something I truly opt for because it really comes handy in those traffic situations. When I mentioned earlier about the triple threat, referring to the headlights, daytime running lights, and the fog lights, well, the controls for that are down here. Pretty much leave it on auto all the time, and you do press this for the fog lights. Pretty much turn them on and off when you need them. Now, for the rear hatch, there is a button here. Press that and it'll rise to the occasion. One thing you will notice with that very bright screen there centered on the dash is you may want to illuminate that brighter or darker, and you do that here. That truly is helpful on those dark nights when those indicators are really bright and pretty much blinding you going down the road. Anytime you're ready to step out of this vehicle and go fill her up before you pull on the handle, well, you want to go way down here and press that button right there. That's going to release the fill up area, and pretty much you don't want to forget to do that, otherwise you got to walk all the way back around. Thankfully, we avoided the snowy conditions, but just in case, we did have the capabilities. Now, there is some automation, pretty much toggle it down to exactly what you're driving in. Real easy, especially for this novice. Now, there's some other functions right here, the four-wheel drive, the rear differential lock, and other downhill slope type of situations. For connectivity, you're going to find way down low on the dash this SD connector, the USB auxiliary jack, and a power supply. Now there's another USB in the center console. Now, one problematic issue was every time we connected USB specifically for charging, it did override the entertainment setting, pretty much meaning you had to opt out of it every time. Now, one feature I'd like is to be able to turn these off when it comes to the entertainment portion, because pretty much what I need is just the connectivity for charging. Between the front seats, you'll find dual cup holders, and they have these nice little grippers right here, allowing it to really snug the drink. And there's two, so there's one for the front occupant and driver. Anytime you run out of cup holders here between the front occupants, you definitely want another. And what I like is, well, there's one on every door tucked over there. Now, what I also like is they became really good trash cans, allowing you to put all the scrap materials down here instead of drinks. One area you want to hang your sunglasses is sometimes on the mirror, but what I prefer is this nice little niche up here. This became a nice housing area for different items, but specifically for my sunglasses, because when they do hang here, they get in the way of the nice huge touchscreen system. If you need another place for sunglasses, there's one up above, but what you're also going to find is some various controls specifically for the huge glass up above. Now, there is a nice screen that covers it to keep this ball head from burning, but if you also need to, you can open it up to fill the air through your hair. Backseat drivers are truly going to like it back here because, again, there's tons of leg room. Now, what you're going to notice here on the back of the front seats is there's a nice little void. That's going to add just a little bit more room for your knees. Even without that, you have plenty of overall comfort. Now, the back seat is pretty much a bench styling, but what I like is there's no hump there in the middle, just very low, but someone sitting there is still going to find decent comfort. With the overall comfort back here, one place they add to it is in the elbow support right there in the middle. Now, what you also notice is it's nice and elevated, pretty much coming to your elbow versus your elbow dropping to it. Now, it also has dual cup holders back here. Now, as for climate, there is no tri-zone climate back here, but nice vents here in the middle. With all the comfort in the back seat, you're definitely going to have some backseat drivers, so you want to deliver some power there when they need it. And, well, there's a household outlet there behind the center console. Now it does for this edition of Road Warrior and a test drive behind the wheel of the 2017 Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk Edition with that four-wheel drive. Now, if you find it hard to recognize this vehicle, don't look too hard, because you can find Trailhawk right here. And, well, heck, look for the black on black, especially with that nice black emblem up there. Now, what you're going to also like with this vehicle is all the rubber cladding all the way around, the grip at the four corners, of course, and that added ground clearance. Now, one thing about this vehicle is it is small by numbers, but really roomy on the inside, something that came as a big shock. Lastly is that V6 power, something you expect to be a 4-cylinder, but really added some extra boot, scoot, and boogie. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.